My next guest is going to be fighting Liz Carmouche coming up here at Bellator 246 on September 12th. It is DeAnna Bennett back here on the program. DeAnna, how's it going?
I'm great. I'm just excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited as well. It's been a while. I was trying to remember the last time we did an interview. It was definitely long before you signed with Bellator, but congrats on getting this opportunity. How did this all come together with you signing with them?
Good question, because I was talking to Shannon about trying to get back on another Invicta card, and my manager called up and was just like, all right, September, Bellator, Liz Carmouche. I'm like, all right, well, yeah, I'm not going to complain about that. That's great.
That's pretty damn awesome. Yeah, fighting a former UFC title challenger. Now, is this like a multi-fight deal, or was this just like a one fight and then they sort of decide what they want to do after that?
I signed a multi-fight deal with Bellator. So that's my new home. That's where I'm going to be fighting at. And I'm excited. You know, Bellator's actually, I've been thinking a lot about, you know, where I want my career to go for the past few years, like what I wanted. I love Invicta, but I've actually really wanted to fight for Bellator, and hopefully California opens up soon for fights, because I really want to fight at the SAP Center. I know Bellator holds a lot of fights there, and that place has a special part in my heart, and so that's where I'm hoping to have my next Bellator fight, honestly.
Is that because you're a San Jose Sharks fan?
That is a big part of the reason, yes.
Perfect. Okay, because I remember we talked some hockey last time, and of course I'm up here in Canada, and we'll definitely get to some hockey talk at the end, but I'm glad you piqued my interest with that.
Yeah, that's like my favorite place on the planet. And so, you know, going to Sharks games, and honestly brings it back to my dad, because he was the cop and he used to always do the strike force. He would always work the strike force events that were there. So he used to always come back and talk about fighting. And even before I even got into fighting, he's the one that was like, oh, I watched these fights. You should do that. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. And yeah, he knew better than me. So
that's awesome. You should put that in your contract. Like, I have to fight at the SAP Center. It's got to be done. And they got to put that shark when you come out. You know, when the players come out and they have the big shark, they should set that up too. That would be cool.
That would be like my dreams come true.
Can you imagine that? That would be awesome.
That would be amazing. I think I would die. I would kill anyone they put in front of me, because like, you can't go through that shark head and not be pumped up. So.
100%. Yeah, I'm totally with you there. That's great. So they tell you you're fighting Liz Carmouche. How excited were you? Just, you know, like I said, big name, you know, to make your debut in.
I love it. I love it. Anytime I have a tough opponent, it motivates me just that much more in training and for the fight in general. And, you know, she's been around for a while. She's fought everybody out there. She's fought the toughest people in the division, in the UFC and everything. And so, you know, it's been a big motivation to test myself against such a good opponent.
How has your training been impacted with COVID-19? I know everyone's situation's a little bit different. How have you been managing with all this craziness going on in the world right now?
Yeah, crazy. That's an understatement. It was a little weird, because I actually spent most of quarantine in Utah with my mom. As soon as everything started going down, like, Jersey is right there. The tri-state area is kind of like the epicenter for the U.S. And so I'm like, I don't want to be here. And my mom was having really bad health problems. And so I went out to Utah to be with her, help take care of her throughout the whole thing. And, you know, for the first little bit, it was weird, because I went from training hard 6 days a week to, all right, how many bodyweight squats can I do today? Because there's nothing else that I can do. And it was rough, but I actually have my old teammates out there. And Court McGee was actually huge. He's like, he has mats in his basement from the old pit elevated, and he's like, all right, come on, we're going to work. Like, you're not gonna stop working. And so he helped me out a lot. A lot of my old teammates out there, Ramsey Nijum opened his gym up back after and got working there a lot at the pit in Salt Lake City. And so I did that. And then, you know, when I had the fight, my coach out here in Jersey is amazing. So obviously I wanted to do my full camp out here, came back out here to Jersey, been training out here. Things have been a little bit different because normal gyms aren't open out here. So I've been doing most of the stuff in-house and training jiu-jitsu over at Dante Rivera's gym now, working with Dante. And it's been different, but it's actually been really good. I'm really happy with the training that I've had, and my coach has been amazing, and my teammates out here have been amazing. And so I I'm top of my game right now, and I'm excited to show that.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, I did notice you're at Killer Bees now for your training camp. You were, if I'm not mistaken, previously were you not at Ricardo Almeida's? What was sort of the switch there, or do you cross train?
No, I would still go there. It's weird right now with the COVID stuff. They're not completely open at Ricardo's. I will still go train there and do jiu-jitsu there from time to time when the world decides to, I don't know, get under control again and things open back up again. But it's just Dante's style. He works really well with my coach, and his style is actually a lot of the style that I do myself in my fights, and just really trying to amplify that and work one-on-one with him. And my coach Brian over at Killer Bee has been amazing and putting everything together for me. And so it wasn't that I'm like, oh, something crazy happened. It was just, finding my people, and then finding kind of like my groove with training and doing what's best for me.
You fought a lot last year, obviously, as part of that Invicta sort of tournament they had. Liz has not. I think her last fight was almost a year ago. I know she's a veteran. She's in the gym training all the time. But do you think the layoff will impact her in this fight?
She's a professional. She's always training. I honestly don't think it would. Her last fight was Valentina. Tough fight to come off of right there. And I think coming out of that fight, it probably spurred her to train harder, honestly. I know for me, I fight somebody, it goes that way, I'm right back in the gym the next day doing everything I can to kind of level up and fix my holes in my game. And so, if anything, it's kind of like a mental thing when you take time off, because I've had a long layoff between fights too. And so, after 3 fights in one day with that Invicta tournament, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to,
well deserved,
this is the first time ever that I'm going to rest. And then I'm like, okay, I'm tired of resting. Listen, I'm good with that. Never doing a 3 fights in one day tournament again. One and done on that one. But I don't think it's going to affect her as much, just because of the fighter that she is. But I hope it doesn't, and I hope she comes in 100%. So.
And training partners, who are you getting to work with primarily for this camp?
So I've been working in-house. My main training partner, Chris, she's a fighter out of New York. And then just working with my coach and doing drilling, like Sean Teed. He's a heavyweight.
Oh, I know Sean. Yeah. Very talented guy.
So he's actually going to be in the corner of my fight with me.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Good friend there. So yeah, he's been there with my jiu-jitsu, been there through my whole camp, kind of helping me out. And so he'll be out there. And then, it's a small group over at Killer Bee, and it's been nice. I've been training with some of the guys from Dante Rivera's gym too, some young up-and-comer guys, real good wrestlers, real good grapplers, and just trying to push myself as much as possible.
How do you see the fight playing out on September 12th?
It's going to be a war, definitely, because she's not somebody that goes down easily. And, I'm not going in there to just play around. I think it's going to be a war, and I think it's going to be an excellent fight. And, it's always hard, like, how do you want to finish it? And I'm like, well, I know in the end my hand's going to get raised. And beyond that, it just depends on what kind of fighter she is on fight day, and it depends on what kind of fighter I am on fight day. I'm looking for a finish. I got a finish in that tournament last year, and it felt really good. I'm not going to lie. It had been a while since I had one of those, and, I definitely, I'm not in there to fight to not lose. I'm in there to fight to win. And so I'm looking for a finish, and I'm going to push it the entire 3 rounds to get that. And from there, we'll see how it goes.
Have you thought about the implications of this fight, just with, Liz's name value, being a former title challenger, and, her durability, and the fact that flyweight and Bellator is kind of wide open at the moment? I mean, there's some contenders that are sort of emerging, but Ali Malay has been sort of running through most of the opponents there. Have you thought, if you get a finish here and maybe another fight, you could be fighting for a title pretty soon here?
Definitely. I've heard other people do interviews with Liz, and they're like, okay, well, when you win this fight, you're going to get a title shot next. And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, hold up. So
wait a second. You know who she's fighting? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hold, you get the finger right here, the hold up. So I'm like, and honestly, it should be the same thing, go in there, fight this tough opponent. That's what I want. I want that belt. I want that title fight. I've always said, I want to fight the toughest people that I can, and that's Liz, and then that's Alima. I would love to test my skill against her. I know she's a great opponent too, and I believe they're teamemates, aren't they?
Oh, they are. Yeah, that's the crazy thing is that like a lot of people were like, "Why would Liz go to Bellator?" But apparently they're down to fight. I think so.
I mean, it's a business,
exactly.
Side, I fought friends before, and I'd fight them again because when you're in the cage, it's different. And when you fight a friend, it's kind of weird because you want to put on the best fight possible. You want to do everything that you can because that's kind of how you honor your friend in the cage. Like, I'm not gonna pull any punches. I'm not gonna hold back, and that's the way I see it. And so I can assume that that's the way they see it too. But that's definitely something that I'm not coming here just to play around. I'm not gonna be just like a gatekeeper for the division. I'm looking for the top. I've been looking for a belt my entire career, and this is what I have my eyes on, and I want that Bellator belt.
I mentioned some hockey earlier. As a Canadian, it's like mandatory to talk about hockey whenever it's brought up. So have you been watching the playoffs at all? At least like catching highlights or anything like that?
I've been trying to watch a little bit. My gym schedule's insane, so I'm like, "Ooh, hockey," and then I'll fall asleep, or I'm like, "No, I have to go."
Well, it's tough. The games are on so late. Like even here, like I'm in Vancouver now. I moved since I think the last time we talked, and like they even have the games on like later here, and it's like it's tough. Like I'm a dad, I got to get up early. Like you know it is.
Yeah, I'm up at 6 a.m. every day, getting going and training, and so I'll sit down. If I stay still for more than 5 minutes, I'm asleep. So I'm like, So I try and catch it, Sports Center, and try and catch highlights and stuff. And I'm also heartbroken because the Sharks had a terrible year this year.
Well, it's their goaltending, I think, and it's actually a guy from out here, Martin Jones, is their goaltender. They're kind of locked in that contract, so it's a bit of a bummer. But I don't know. I'm hearing some rumblings. They're trying to make some moves, so hopefully we'll see a turnaround there because they're a great franchise.
So I'm looking forward to next year. Trust me, for the first few years, being a Sharks fan, it's rough. So
yeah, a lot of heartbreak. Yeah, because you've gotten close. Yeah. There's been a couple of years where it's like, could they do it? And like,
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We made it to the finals once. And actually made it to Game 7 of the finals.
That's right. Yeah.
That one time, and then, you can't get too sad. Like obviously it's sad because it didn't get the cup, but then it's like, okay, we came close, and then things kind of
silver lining. Exactly.
I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take that as a win. For my emotions, because
of course, yeah, you got to take what you can get. It's tough to win the cup, It's not like you can't be Pittsburgh every year.
Like, small steps till we get there. But I'm like, literally, they can be the best team in the entire league and then be out the first round of the playoffs. Because usually when the playoffs hit, they're like, "What's hockey? What's that little rubber thing that I'm pushing around? Where am I? Who am I?" I'm like, man, I love you guys. Come on, let's put this together. So, but yeah. I won't ever change teams. They're my team. Even though I'm out here in Jersey, they're like, "Oh, you're not a Devils fan?" I'm like, no. Absolutely.
Good for you. Got to stick to your guns. I was the same way when I lived out east. I was still supporting my Canucks, even though we missed the playoffs a bunch of times. So I can feel you on that for sure. DeAnna, it was great catching up with you. Always great chatting. Big fight. Bellator 246, September 12th. You can't miss it. That card is stacked, actually. I was just looking at it today. A lot of really good fights, including yours. Anyone you want to thank? Any sponsors? Any social media? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, you can find me on social media, DeAnna D. Bennett, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I post random stuff from time to time, and I'm just an awkward human, so I'm sorry. There's lots of talk show tunes and hockey and fighting, and yeah, sorry. My coach wants to kill me most of the time with that. So, but, speaking of people to thank, my coach and my team over at Killer Bee, all of my teammates in Utah, too, that helped me out while I was out there. I wouldn't be where I'm at without the push from the people around me, honestly, and, fans and everything. Every bit of support means the world to me. Talking to you on here, having these interviews, some people, I know fighters that hate talking to people and hate doing interviews, but, I love being able to talk to you guys. And so I appreciate you having me on the show here. And my sponsors, I have Macrobites, I have Thrive Spine and Sports Rehab, I have New Jersey Nutrition, all of the stuff. I know I'm forgetting a million things. And like, my brain's like, nap. we nap now, right? Nap? I'm like, stop that. Not yet. Um, but like I said, every little support that I got means the world to me. Even the people that take their time out of their day to write me terrible messages on my Instagram and like be like, you're never gonna win anything, and I'm like, now you sound like my mom. So there you go. I just agree with them because I'm like, well, it's not the first time I heard that. It's not the last time I heard that.
Is that your best shot? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, I had some guy that was just like, he's like, well, you should be in the kitchen. And I'm like, I am in the kitchen right now. As I'm reading this, I am in the kitchen. I found my way home. And he's like, well, you should like make something. I'm like, I am. I told you. And finally, after him going back and forth a couple of times, he's like, all right, I got nothing else to say. You win. So I'm like, I win. I got a new fan out of it. I'm not sure if that's the kind of people I want around, but I'll take it because self-deprecating humor is where I live. So, but on that random tangent, that's all I have for you today.
Awesome.